A deal with bondholders in Detroit's bankruptcy. Who's going to run for the soon-to-be vacant seats in Congress? The Wayne County Prosecutor wants you to make another choice for county executive. Plus, the State House passes a new plan to fix Michigan's disastrous roads. It's analysis of news across the state. MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hello and welcome to MiWeek. I'm Nolan Finley, editorial page editor of the Detroit News. Christy McDonald is enjoying some time off this week. A deal with some bondholders in Detroit's bankruptcy. You could say the help wanted sign is out in Washington, D.C., especially for the Michigan delegation. And the mudslinging continues in Wayne County, where prosecutor Kim Worthy is calling on voters to make another choice for county executive. Finally, a harsh winter means rough roads in Michigan, but the State House is proposing a new plan to smooth things out. It's all ahead, but first, a bankruptcy update. As part of the deal announced this week in Detroit's bankruptcy, a group of bondholders agreed to vote for the restructuring in exchange for a higher payout. But one insurer facing big losses still wants DIA Art to be on the table and says it has interested buyers lined up. Joining me to talk about that tonight, my counterpart, Steve Henderson of the Detroit Free Press, and another familiar face, Craig Foley, host of the aptly named Craig Foley Show on WDET. Welcome, gentlemen. And Steve, you say in today's column that keep your hands off, you vultures of the DIA Art.
Well, I'm just saying what the judge said, right? Judge Rhodes said, we're not going to do these sort of short-term cash for debt kind of plans. That's the kind of thinking that got Detroit in trouble in the first place. We're not going to cannibalize assets just to pay off some creditors. The grand bargain that's taking shape with foundation money and state money for pensions, leveraging the value of the collection is a much more sophisticated deal. It preserves the city's ability to function. There's no reason to even consider this idea that we're just going to sell stuff out of the museum.
The state and the DIA and other donors, the foundations, have raised $816 million for this art. This bond insurer says it has offers of up to $2 billion for the art. How can the court look at that wide discrepancy between those two values and say, we're not going to exploit that value?
But if you look at the documentation that came out in regards to those offers, there's a lot of ifs in there. And one of the things that we don't know is what pieces of art they have included in their bid, who exactly owns all these pieces of art. So there are a whole lot of unknowns there. So it's impossible to quantify how legitimate these bids are until we have a lot more detail. And Judge Rhodes, I have a feeling, is going to see through that too.
But the judge is going to be weighing these pensioners who are still losing a considerable amount of money, particularly those in the general retirement system, against these offers for the art. Is it possible that the foundations are going to have to come up with more money to offset what others are willing to pay?
Well, you know, all of this stuff is hypothetical. This idea of selling art out of the museum is way more complicated than anybody ever seems to acknowledge. The city doesn't own most of that art outright. You know, Al Taubman owns a lot of it, and he's not going to just let you go and sell it out the door. There are other collectors who have given art to the museum with this understanding that it'd stay in the public collection.
But this insurer identified city-owned art and said it's worth a lot more than it's being offered.
It may be, but that's not the point in a municipal bankruptcy, right? If this were a private bankruptcy and if it were Ford or GM or whatever, yeah, you strip the thing for parts and you sell everything off at the highest price. the point of a municipal bankruptcy is to keep the city intact and keep it, give it a chance to thrive again on the back end of this. And the museum's a big part of that.
Well, yeah, and again, the argument comes down to what role arts and culture play in the well-being of the community, and is it a critical part of what makes Detroit Detroit, and how important is it that you preserve this? All this does is sort of start the saber rattling between the two sides, but you cannot force the city to liquidate its assets. You just can't. Judge Rhodes has made that pretty clear, and Kevin Orr was very adamant about it as well, that this isn't going to happen.
But you are looking at pensioners who are being asked to still sacrifice a great deal. And part of that deal this week would make the least prosperous of them, the poorest of those retirees, a little more whole in this process. Do you feel that that's another effort to keep hands off the DAR and other assets?
It is, and it's also an effort to try to minimize that blow to pensioners. I think what we're going to see going forward are lots of different ideas about how you can take this cut that the pensioners have to take and make it targeted so that the most vulnerable of them are not going, without their money.
Well, and keep in mind too, the big deal about this agreement that was reached earlier this week is that you have another group of aggrieved party that is going to agree to this deal, and now you have this, and if the swaps deal goes through later this week, then you've got two aggrieved parties that have agreed to support this plan, which means that if the pensioners in particular don't come to the table, you're going to be in a position where you can force a cram down. Nobody wants that, but it's entirely possible that they could do this now.
But
the leverage shifts.
I mean, do you now feel, Steve, that the cram down is the more likely outcome of this?
I think this sets the stage for it. I mean, you've got a number of creditors saying, this is the deal that we've got, we're going to go for it. And I don't know what the exact number is that the judge needs to do that, but we're getting close. And every time one party agrees to some part of this agreement, it puts pressure on everybody else to come to the table. The pensioners, too, are now, I think, sort of hanging out there on a limb saying, we want a better deal, but you've got too many other people who are taking it, and they're going to end up with something worse if they're not careful.
But Craig, this deal hinges largely on the Detroit taxpayers, Detroit property taxpayers, continuing to pay about $100 million a year to pay off bonds that will no longer exist. They will be wiped away by the bankruptcy. It seems to be a fairness issue there.
I have a feeling that that's something that's going to be litigated for a long time, even after this bankruptcy is done. Because if you're a citizen in Detroit and you are still paying off bonds that were being used to pay for things that you already received, but you no longer have that debt, the city's going to have a tough time arguing that they should be able to continue to collect that money. It wouldn't be the first time that cities have done this, but it's going to be tough, especially when you're talking about wanting to reduce the tax burden on Detroiters. They already have a pretty high tax burden, the highest in the state, really, when you look at it in terms of how much of people's percentage of income goes towards that. It's a problem.
And it's a detriment to living in the city.
It is. And everybody has said they want to reduce the cost of living and doing business in the city of Detroit and reducing the taxes. The governor has said it, Kevin Orr has said it, Mayor Duggan has said it. That's going to have to be a part of the package.
And Steve, everybody gets their debt wiped away except the taxpayers then.
Right. Well, and again, this is about fixing that pension hole. That's really important. And I think, Kevin Orr has not been given enough credit for pushing as hard as he has to try to make that better on pensioners.
And it really does seem to be all about making sure pensioners lose as little or suffer as little as possible.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, this week we learned former Senate Majority Leader Mike Bishop of Rochester has tossed his hat in the ring for Mike Rogers' seat in the 8th Congressional District, along with Rochester Hills Mayor Brian Burnett. Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer are working to recruit Michigan Democrats to run. So what's this race look like, and what's the other races in open seats in the state? We have four open seats.
5 open, right?
Four House and one
Senate. And then we've got 4 other races that are pretty competitive. I mean, it's an unusual.
It really goes against this notion that with redistricting there are no longer competitive. We have over half the races in Michigan will be intensely competitive.
Well, in the 8th, I think what will be interesting is Rogers versus McMillan, right?
He's also going
in the primary. McMillan's going to pick up a lot of Tea Party support. The DeVosses in West Michigan, I think, will probably try to get involved in pushing him in that race. So this will be, you know, Republican on Republican violence.
Well, but you talk about West
don't
Michigan.
Really have much,
you also have Justin Amash,
Amash,
in a tough primary with Brian Elias out there.
That's right.
Or Ellis, Brian Ellis out there.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's across the board. Craig, is that a Republican seat? Do Dems have a chance up there?
Which one? Are you talking
In the 8th?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was competitive a few years ago, but given how little time there is to get your act together for this race, I mean, who are you going to field for this race? I mean,
and Barb Byram said
she said she doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 2 weeks till the filing deadline, so you've got to get all your signatures together. The Democrats, the national Democrats, don't look like they're going to be coming forward with a lot of money to help you win a race in a district that really, frankly, Mike Rogers solidified it for that party, I think, in his time in that seat. Even though he won it very narrowly when he first won that seat, I think it's safely in the hands of Republicans now, and they don't want to waste money on a seat that they didn't think they were going to be able to win to begin with.
Of course, you have the Camp seat in mid-Michigan. You have a lot of term limit lawmakers going in, and that's one thing that term limits has done. It has created a ready field of candidates for the next office. But the one race that sort of surprised me is the John Dingell open seat with his retirement, and nobody seems to be willing to step up and challenge Debbie.
No, they aren't. You know, I mean, I always thought that would be a fight. You know, when John Dingell retired, that if she wanted that seat, she'd have to fight a bunch of people for it. Every day I get emails from her with, you know, more people giving her money, more people giving her endorsements. I mean, the odds are so heavily on her side at this point. You'd be crazy to get into it.
He gave people plenty of time, unlike Camp and Rogers. He gave people plenty of time to make up their mind in this race. And you would think an open congressional seat would attract a much bigger field.
But you know, you said that there's obviously this field of ready-made candidates. Well, there are some people that have established you know, political teams. They know how to raise money. But the thing is, with term limits in Michigan, they haven't been in office long enough to make a big enough name for themselves to be really even known outside of their immediate state Senate or state House district. So when you have a situation like in Dave Camp's seat, the only guy that appears right now to be probably the likely winner on the Republican side is State Senator Molinar. But I guarantee you that nobody outside of his district has any idea who that guy is.
Absolutely.
But who knew who Dave Camp was?
Well, yeah, that's true. And Heising before that in West Michigan. That's not unusual in these outstate congressional seats. But unlike the 14th district or the 12th district, the Dingell seat, in Detroit you have the open seat that Gary Peters is vacating in the 14th, right?
Yeah.
And you have a huge slate of candidates chasing that.
Well, on the Democratic side, I think we have 6 confirmed at this point in time, including 2 state senators. Brenda Lawrence from Southfield. I mean, I think that's both of our districts.
It's, we both live in
that district. It's everybody's district.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's the super district I got.
That happened last time in that district too, when they first redrew it this way, and Gary Peters had to defend the seat. He had 6, I think, challengers, including. Well, mostly Democrats. I think it has to do with the geography. I mean, it takes in so many different communities that there are lots of good people who happen to live there and want to go to Congress.
So how's that race shape up to you?
I think, just based on the way I'm looking at it, Rudy Hobbs and Burt Johnson, I think, will probably take a lot of votes from each other. I think this is Brenda Lawrence's race. If she's smart about it, I think she can win the Democratic nomination.
Because of the Oakland County base?
The Oakland County base, she's got a pretty good track record in Southfield, and she seems to be well-liked. She actually did pretty well in those Oakland County races, better than anybody expected she would against Brooks Patterson. So I think that she could do it if she wanted, and I really think that Hobbs and Burt Johnson are going to hurt each other.
And now
I could be wrong about that.
No, I think that's right.
Now you have John Conyers facing another primary challenge, second time in a row. Does Horace Sheffield have any better chance than the group who opposed John Conyers last time around did?
Certainly name recognition.
I think he does. I mean, Horace, and I mean, you look at what his daughter was able to do in the city council race. There wasn't a lot of good reason for her to win that against Adam Ollier, who was a very strong candidate too. She outworked him, and they understand how to do that. I think Horace really knows how to turn votes out on election day, and we've seen so many people take a shot at John Conyers and come up empty.
But not in public the way that he has. He's
No,
willing
well,
to
that's
say
right.
things that other people have thought, but have not been willing to say in
and that's the
public.
difference. He's willing to attack him. He's willing to attack Monica Conyers.
Yeah, right.
And that could, if you get the right advertising campaign, that could turn things. We also have a interesting race in Wayne County where Prosecutor Kim Worthy is urging voters to choose someone other than Bob Ficano to be county executive. Filing deadline, as we said, is April 22nd, but so far Ficano hasn't indicated whether he's going to run or not. Several others have filed and are still contemplating. So what's ahead in this Wayne County race? Who do you like, gentlemen?
This is a tough one. Right now, sitting in the weeds, I think, and quietly raising a lot of money is Westland Mayor Bill Wild. And he probably will have a lot of money for this campaign, but we still don't know who's going to be in, Stephen. I mean, you've got Warren Evans, who's out there on the fringes, who may do something. And if you're Bob Ficano, I mean, Kim Worthy has just been pounding you with a hammer for the last 6 months on this budget deal and saying that the former sheriff is weak on crime. He is so hurt and wounded going into this thing that I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
But at the Econ Club Big Four event during the auto show, somebody asked Bob Ficano about his reelection plans and whether he's worried about the number of people running against him. And he stood up and I thought he said something that was, the truest thing you could say in politics in this town is, I wish all of you would run against me. Because the more people in that race, the thinner the vote gets sliced and the better chance Ficano, even though, he's had some troubles and he's not as popular as he once was, he has a good chance of coming out of that primary, doesn't he, Steve?
If you're him, it's the more the merrier, right? Everybody take a shot and then get your 2 to 5% of the vote, and then he wins with 12% or something in the primary.
Right.
I think the problem he's going to have is that Worthy. There's a lot of people that I would not want to cross in Southeast Michigan. Kim Worthy is at the top of that list. She's really got it out for him.
And she's going to throw her weight into this race.
That's absolutely right.
But, if it's a two-person race, he loses. And this is why, the Republicans should put somebody in this race. There is enough support, and again, if it's an off-year election, right? And the conventional wisdom is that Republicans show up for these elections.
Yeah.
If there was ever a time for a Republican to win the Wayne County executive seat, it is this year, especially if Bob Ficano emerges from that primary.
And they keep saying they're going to have somebody, They need to have somebody with at least some name recognition. I thought a John Walsh out of Livonia would be a perfect candidate, term-limited lawmaker. He told me the other day he's not interested in running in Wayne County. They need to be ready with a candidate who can take on Ficano, because I agree with Craig. You slice that thing up so thin that Ficano could easily win this nomination. Now, Warren Evans, you mentioned Warren Evans being sitting in the weeds. I mean, that's clearly Duggan's candidate. And I wonder how the new mayor is going to play in this election cycle.
I mean, he's absolutely going to have something to say about it. He is the kind of politician who likes to have friends around him and friends in high places. So he's going to try to get his candidate in there. I'm sure he sees weakness in Ficano and an opportunity.
Now, Craig, you also have Westland Mayor Bill Wild in this race, and he's got an unusual supporter. We haven't seen the Ford family visibly play in politics in this town, and yet Bill Ford did a fundraiser for Wild the other day and is putting his support behind him.
Which is interesting. I mean, Bill Ford Jr., of course, moved to Ann Arbor a few years back, but obviously Ford Motor Company has significant dealings in Wayne County. I mean, this is their home county.
Employer.
They need to, exactly. They need to avoid the potential economic pitfall that Detroit finds itself in right now in the county, and that's a big issue. Is the fiscal condition of the county where Ford Motor Company does business. I'm not surprised he's getting in there. I mean, there's a lot at stake here in Wayne County, and if the wrong person gets in the office, in his mind, they could be following the exact same path that Detroit is with bankruptcy.
And it may signal the business community has a growing frustration with the way Wayne County is run, with the inefficiency, with the corruption, or maybe as simple as the fact that they play hockey together and they're personal friends.
Yeah, but if you get a Bill Ford very visibly, very vocally packing a candidate other than the county executive, that's going to be a big problem. I mean, I don't know how you discount that.
Is business leaders from Michigan far behind
That's
getting involved in this race?
ultimately that could help decide whether someone like Bill Wild, who I think a lot of, but most people don't have any idea who he is.
Not a dynamic campaigner.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that could really catapult him ahead, that kind of support. If he gets the business community behind him, I think.
So why didn't
Calvin Johnson to
Get Calvin.
to support him?
That's right.
so why didn't Kim Worthy get in the race herself?
You know, I think she doesn't want that job. I mean, I think she thinks she's very good at her job. I asked her once why she didn't run for mayor, and that's what she said.
Turning now to a topic that's occupied us all winter, Michigan's roads. We'd all agree that a trip to the mall or driving to work means dodging pothole after pothole after pothole. Now the Michigan House is proposing a $500 million solution to fix the roads. And the good news, it seems, is that it won't impact your wallet, at least not right away. Gentlemen, you know, the governor has asked for $1.2 billion in new taxes. Jase Bolger, the House Republican leader, says he's got a way to do it without raising taxes, without raising fees, but he only comes up with half that money. Is that enough, and is it a reliable funding source?
Well, it's better than what they have now. I think this is a half step, because this is, legislatively speaking, a half step, because this is half of what Governor Snyder said we were going to need to address the problem. One was changing the formula for how we tax gasoline, from a per gallon tax to a wholesale tax. It's a much more stable revenue base, and it has the potential to grow over time. That was part of it. But there needs to be an increase in that number too, to generate the money that they need to do the job right. And I think that's what people are frustrated about.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jase Bolger deserves some real credit. I mean, we haven't
seen, election year.
Well, we haven't seen anyone in the legislature really step up to meet the governor even halfway.
Right.
He's been talking about this for 2 years, and they've been sort of ignoring him. I mean, at least Bolger says, look, I can come up with a $500 million this way, and I can do it without raising taxes. Now, is that the smartest way to do it? Maybe, maybe not. But it's a starting point, and it's a place we can start, you know, a discussion about how to get to that $1.2 billion.
But it's coming out of the general fund. It's not a dedicated revenue stream. And I worry as the general fund fluctuates whether that money won't be vulnerable. Craig.
Well, and what other programs are going to be hit as a result of this? That's one of the details that we don't have yet about this plan is, what does this mean? You can't just say, oh, it just comes out of the general fund. We're talking $500 million.
Well, presumably they'll take a lot of it out of the surplus, but again, that's money that is wanted for a lot of other different things.
And needed for a lot of things.
Other different groups.
After
it's
a
going to be
decade of disinvestment. I mean, it's not an easy bounce. At some point, we're going to have to address the revenue part of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's some talk in the legislature about pairing this issue up with some other things that legislators are talking about, right? So maybe you end up with a sales tax hike that gives a penny to roads and a penny to schools, or a penny to you know, some of these proposals to fund college tuition for people. I mean, there's some stuff that the governor could probably manipulate to get what he needs out of this.
But that takes our sales tax then to 8%.
Well,
Steve, do you think there's an appetite in this state
go
for
to
8%
Illinois.
sales
I mean,
tax?
Maryland,
well, I don't know that Illinois is a great example.
But there are a lot of other states that are deemed to be low tax states, but actually have a lot more fees. You know, why not just raise the fees that it costs you to get your license plates every year? You know, Michigan actually is a relatively low-cost state when it comes to operating a motor vehicle. We don't have anywhere near the stringent guidelines on what kind of vehicles you can drive. We don't have the inspection stations anymore. Right. So you can drive, if it's got a motor and wheels, you can drive it in Michigan. In other states, you would have to pay to fix that stuff up. All that money goes to the coffers to fix the road.
And we're spending less per capita on our roads than most other states. But when you look at the condition of the roads and how far they've deteriorated since Governor Snyder made that proposal initially, is $1.2 billion even enough?
Well, I mean, $1.2 billion is what he says we need to maintain the road.
What we have,
right? To stop.
Well, you don't want to maintain them in this condition.
Right. So now because of this winter, you need probably, well, I don't know, another. Certainly, they're going to spend $200 million fixing what's broken now. You probably need maybe $500 million on top of that $1.2 billion just to make up for what we.
I think it was the Road Builders Association said the number's closer to $2 billion. A year that is needed to do this. I just want to put this out there real quick. None of this would be happening right now if people hadn't gotten involved in the political process by calling their legislators, going to town hall meetings, and letting people know how they feel, because we were all told 6 months ago that there's no way we could get anything done on this in an election year.
And yet there's no indication yet that voters would be willing to tax themselves more to pay for smoothing out
it's
their
one of the
road.
most frustrating problems you have. Everyone complains about the roads. You say, well, what if we raised your license plate fee to pay for it? Absolutely not.
What if they've just put a tax on tire repairs this winter?
Yeah,
Look how much.
We're already.
I mean, you go to any tire shop and people are lined up 10, 12 deep, paying $300, $400, $500 to fix tires and rims.
But some of the things that I do like that are in there to sort of soften that inevitable blow that we're going to have to pay more, I like the idea of warranties, longer warranties on the work that the road companies do to do this kind of stuff. That goes a long way towards making people
what about
feel
this
a
truck
bit
weight
better.
buggy boo? Is there any truth to that?
Higher fees if you're going to be overweight. That's
Right.
part of this too.
I mean, we have the lowest fees for heavy trucks anywhere, and that's not, you can't continue that.
Well, thanks, guys. That's all the time we have this week for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and at myweek.org. I'm Nolan Finley. We'll see you next week.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,